So we see now Republicans are plunging America into a shutdown, rejecting bipartisan talks, pushing a partisan bill, and risking America's health care, worst of all. A few moments ago, Republicans once again rejected Democrats' proposals to avoid a shutdown, fix health care premiums, and spare Americans the calamity of skyrocketing through the roof health care costs. Republicans blocked it again, once again. So now 2 times, Republicans have failed to get enough votes to avoid a shutdown. They've got to sit down and negotiate with Democrats to come to a bill that both parties can support. They didn't do that in the past. Their bill, they call it clean, we call it totally partisan. There was no input from Democrats. Not a single line in their bill had input from Democrats. They never consulted us. Thune didn't consult me. Johnson didn't consult Hakeem. And the bottom line is that we had a partisan bill. You don't pass partisan bills, CR. When I was majority leader, we passed 13 of these bills, not one shutdown. You want to know why? It's because we negotiated with them. They didn't. And that's why they have failed now twice. Now, why do we care so much about them negotiating with us? It's not a point of pride. It's because Americans are hurting with higher costs throughout the country. Some of it's tariffs, some of it's energy costs, some of its food costs, but one of the main reasons, and the one with the most immediate impact on raising Americans' costs, is skyrocketing costs of health care, all done by the Republicans. We have now learned that the premiums for those on ACA, 24 million people, that's a huge number, will go up 114%. It's an average, depending on your income and depending on what your costs were, that average families can't afford. There are going to be millions of American families in the next week in October sitting down and saying, how are we going to pay these damn bills? What do we have to cut to pay these bills? Or should we cut our health insurance or drop it altogether? It's estimated over 4 million people will. And why are those costs going up? Simply because the Republicans refuse to extend the ACA credits. That's all. And you say, well, negotiate it with them. Well, we want to, but they rejected it 3 times in 3 different bills. And now it's on their backs. And by the way, if you think people don't like it now, there's going to be a crescendo as through the beginning of October, the vast majority of Americans get those bills, and they're going to say, what the heck are we going to do? We need health care, but we can't afford it. The data shows that that's one of the most important things to the American people. So we want to sit down and negotiate, but the Republicans can't do it in their partisan way, where they just say it's our way or the highway. We're not doing a thing to deal with the destruction that their health care bills have cost. Those bills are highly unpopular. In fact, Trump has talked about changing the name from Big Beautiful Bill. He even mentioned it yesterday, because he knows how unpopular it is. And they try to divert the subject, change the subject, and make up lies, like saying, oh, we're for giving this health care money to undocumented immigrants. They know damn well that the law is that no Medicare, Medicaid, or ACA funds can go to undocumented immigrants. But they're so afraid to debate this issue. They have so many right-wingers in their caucus who don't want to do anything that they come up with these lies to divert attention. The bottom line is we need to stop these premiums from going up dramatically. We need to do it now, not in October when people get the notices, not in November when they have to decide whether to drop health care or reduce the health care they get. And this is not a left, right, or center issue. This is of great help. This is to help the American people into one of the things they are most worried about. So we hope they sit down with us and talk. Otherwise, it's the Republicans who will be driving us straight towards a shutdown tonight and at midnight, and the American people will blame them for bringing the federal government to a halt.
The whip's job in short order comes down to a very basic responsibility. You've got to be able to count to 60. I learned all the skills I needed in the first grade. I've used them in the Senate, and I've come to the conclusion that if you start off with 53 votes, as the Republicans do, they need 7 from our side. What Chuck Schumer has outlined is basic. If they want support from the Democratic side, for God's sake, sit down and let's talk it over at the table as soon as possible. There are plenty of tables in this Capitol for this purpose. We can do it. The second point I want to make is a very brief one. Health care is critical. If you've ever had a sick member of your family and no health insurance, you'll never forget it. That was my experience and the experience of a lot of people. To say that we look the other way when it comes to cutting health insurance or raising the premiums to a point where families can't afford them is to ignore one of the very basics of family solidarity. We believe in doing something for health care and doing it right as quickly as possible. It's important now that we do it. Tonight's vote's an evidence of the fact that it's up to us on a bipartisan basis to make a difference. Now we've got one problem. The House left. There's no one here to negotiate with in the House of Representatives. I sure hope that changes soon. The sooner they come back and go to work with us, the sooner we can solve this problem.
Mr. Leader, just a short time ago, Leader Schumer told us that there are some conversations with Democrats to try to woo them to their side. Also, we saw Senator Cortez Masto, Senator King vote in favor of the Republican CR. Are you concerned about that at all, and are you aware of any of these conversations?
First, I'm concerned about Americans' health care. That's what we Democrats are concerned about. They're having real trouble. It's going to get a lot worse with this 114% increase, and we feel we're representing our constituents in the best way possible by insisting that Republicans come to the table. We certainly are willing to have negotiations. There's no problem with that, but they've got to be bipartisan, and they've got to have real input from both sides. Yes.
Senator Thune says he plans to have a vote again and again and again on the GOP CR. So can you guarantee with 100% certainty that that plan will never get 60 votes?
Look, the bottom line is, as I said, our guarantee is to the American people that we're going to fight as hard as we can for their health care, plain and simple. Yes?
Senator Thune just said before you got here that he disagrees with the premise of these subsidies. They were put in place during COVID. They should have been extended this far. Are you willing to take anything less other than what you demanded in the bill?
Look, the bottom line is we're not going to negotiate this bill in public. We need to come to a bipartisan solution that protects America's health care. Yes, in the back. No, I was okay, go ahead. You'll go next. The strategy is the American people are demanding it and going to demand it more and more on October 1st, October 2nd. They're going to keep demanding that we do something about this. And Republicans are feeling the heat. You have a good number of Senate Republicans and House Republicans, as was mentioned. When they talk to us privately, they say this is untenable. When I even sat with the president yesterday and explained to him about this, he said, "Ooh, that's bad. That'll hurt me." So the bottom line is the American people are making their voices known to the Republicans, and that's what we know is going to happen. And hopefully they'll understand that and come to bipartisan solutions that help the American people.